Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of It Came From the Sump, our series dedicated to the Necromunda Community Event, co-hosted by Dr. Drybrush and myself. It Came From the Sump is a vehicle-based narrative Necromunda campaign set in the Sump Sea of Necromunda. And before we actually started Battle Report, I made a huge mistake in Battle Report number 4, and the reason why is because I failed to actually talk about our current week's progress in terms of the campaign data. So as you can see on this picture with this table that we have listed, we actually have the rankings of all the gangs as well as their current wins, their losses, and their current gang ratings. So last week, the Pale Horse Posse led by Iron Major actually had a barnstormer week on our very first campaign, earning 1 victory as well as earning up to 2,165 points of their gang rating. Just earned a ton of cash from their Some Spider Hunt scenario. In second place comes the Everdamned, led by Dark Lord Mac with his rating of 1910. In third place is my gang, the Rusty Nails, played by myself, with 1 victory, 1 loss, as well as a rating of 1,840 points. The Deep Ones actually ranked up to level 4 because Big Puka managed to win that pit fight scenario to release his Psygeist, and he's actually sitting at 1 win, 1 loss, as well as a point value rating of 1,810. In 5th place are the Velvet Privateers, played by my buddy Warlord Ace, with 1 loss, as well as a gang rating of 1,710. And in 6th place is Snow White and the Wild 7, played by the Kiddo, with 1 loss and a gang rating of 1,685 points. Now in 7th place is the Sump Spiders, played by my sister Shade, which is our Spyrer hunting gang. She didn't actually play last week because we have an odd number of gangs in our campaign, so every gang will have a bye week during our campaign. So Shade volunteered to be in the bye week on the very first week of the campaign. This week it's going to be Iron Major with the Pale Horse Posse, so the Orlocks will not be participating in this week's campaign just because we have an odd number of gangs, and that's pretty much how it is. That's why his rows highlighted that bright orange color. So let's go and talk about what our campaign statistics look like for Dominator, as well as Slaughterer, Creditor, as well as Warmonger and Power Broker. Dominator, of course, is the people who own the most territories in our campaign. Slaughterer is the one that actually has the most kills during the course of the campaign. Creditor is the gang with the highest gang rating and wealth combined, followed by Warmonger, the number of battles that are fought in our campaign, and then lastly Power Broker, which is going to be the number of reputation points you earn, or in this case for the Sump Spiders, their terror level. Now when it comes to Dominator, we have a first place 3-way tie with the Rusty Nails, the Everdamned, as well as the Pale Horse Posse. When it comes to Slaughter, however, the Pale Horse Posse is definitely in the lead with 12 kills, as well as Creditor right now with their gang rating of 2,165 points. Now when it comes to Warmonger, the Rusty Nails as well as the Deep Eyes are both tied with 2 battle reports from last week. And when it comes to power rating, of course, for Power Broker for reputation, the Deep Ones are actually in the lead with 10 points reputation as well. And if you notice, the Sump Spiders, they really can't participate in terms of Dominator because they don't have any territories as a Spyrer hunting party. Same thing with Power Broker. We're going to kind of change the rules a little bit by giving them terror levels instead of reputation, just because they don't actually participate in the rest of the campaign like everybody else. So that's where our current week's current setting is right now for week 2 of our campaign. And I do apologize for not putting this in Battle Report number 4. It's been over a year since I made a Battle Report, so I'm going to probably make some errors. So with that being said, let's go and talk about current Battle Report number 5. So Battle Report number 5 is going to be fought between my sister Shade as well as myself. My sister Shade is bringing the Sump Spiders, her Spyrer hunting party, and I'm once again playing the Rusty Nails of the Slaver Guild Outcasts. This is the very first time I'll be fighting against Spyrer hunting parties in the current rule set. I've actually fought against this gang multiple times back in the 90s version of Necromunda, and it was a lot of fun playing against them. They were very challenging to go up against, and I'm really looking forward to see exactly what they're like against in this Battle Report as well. Now, because this Battle Report is a little bit more of a deeper dive with a lot of narrative going on, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that you can click and navigate to the part of the Battle Report that interests you the most. So with that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we'll show you photos as well as the characteristics for each of the gangers in both of our gangs, and then we'll see you again when it comes to the scenario rules.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
So for the scenario, the battle report is Harbor Cargo Takeovers from the Book of the Sump. And of course, for our battlefield conditions, we have standard Sump Sea conditions. The attacker will be the Rusty Nails, while the Sump Spiders are the defender. Now for the crews, the Rusty Nails have custom selection of 6, while the Sump Spiders have random selection of 4 with reinforcements. Now the Sump Spiders can set up anywhere on the battlefield, and they also place 3 loot caskets anywhere inside the center of the battlefield as well. The Rusty Nails then set up their fighters within 4 inches of any table edge of the battlefield and within 4 inches of another member of the crew. The Rusty Nails are free to use any table edge, and they must be outside of 12 inches for any loot caskets. Now for the cargo extraction special rule, the Rusty Nails are trying to steal as many loot caskets as they can. If the loot casket comes within 1 inch of a table edge, then it is extracted. For reinforcements, at the end of the second round and each round thereafter, random fighters will arrive in the end phase for the defender. For tactics card, there are no tactics card for this battle report, but the voiceless choir effect is still in play during this week. For my trigger word, it ends up that my little sister decided to use the phrase, "Let me take a photo real quick," because I need to take photos for my battle reports. So if I say that, I trigger the voiceless choir. And for my little sister Shade, because she's a fan of Invader Zim the cartoon, she likes to use the famous quote, "Let's rain some doomed heads upon doom upon the doomed heads of our doomed enemies." So if she says doom at all, that triggers it as well. Now for ending the battle, when all 3 loot caskets are taken off the table edge, the battle is over. In fleeing the battlefield, if the defender voluntarily bottles out, the attacker automatically wins and extracts all 3 loot caskets. Additionally, bottle checks are not made until the end of round number 5. For victory conditions, if the attacker steals 2 loot caskets, they are the winner, otherwise the defender wins. Now for rewards on this one, the gang that managed to take off loot counters, I earn D6 times 10 credits for each loot casket that I managed to steal. The defender, however, earns nothing because they are Spyrer hunters, so they don't actually earn any credits. For experience, each fighter earns 1 point of experience point for participating, as well as my fighters earn additional bonus experience point if I manage to steal a loot casket. And for reputation, the winning gang earns D3 points reputation, plus 1 more reputation for fighting against each other for the very first time, which is the case in this battle report. And if any gang bottles out, they lose 1 point of reputation. So now that we're done talking about the scenario rules, let's go ahead and talk about deployments real quick. So let's talk about deployment as well as battle plans real quick. So if you notice, I've done something actually different with this battle report. I was actually inspired by the YouTuber Double Skull Wargaming. He does this beautiful job of actually illustrating the overhead shots of the battlefield and using graphic overlays to show where everyone is located at. And I thought I would try to do exactly the same thing for my battle reports, so that way people have a better understanding of how fighters are moving across the battlefield and how the battle is developing overall. And if you guys do find this little mini map to be really handy, please let me know, because if it does really help you guys out to enjoy the battle reports, then I'll do this more often in my battle reports, so that way you guys can understand what's going on. Now if you'll notice on the key on this one, on the left hand side, I have my fighters in yellow. Those are going to be represented by the numbers, as well as the fighters with those names associated with those numbers, and my colors will be yellow. And then my sister, the Shade, will be the Sump Spiders. Theirs is the teal colored, the cyan colored ones, and that's where they're located at. And the 3 green stars in the middle of the map represent the 3 loot caskets as well. So as you can see, I decided to choose the bottom edge of the battlefield to be my deployment area, and the reason why is just because narratively it just kind of fits what the Rusty Nails are trying to do, which is to sneak into this area and steal the loot caskets, kind of like acting like Sump Pirates. So I decided to focus my forces on the bottom there, and I decided to use the infiltrate skill for a Corella Corsair in order to get near those loot caskets. Meanwhile, my sister Shay decided to deploy her fighters, kind of dividing her fighters in half. She has one of her Sump Spyrer hunters located in the upper left-hand corner, while she has the Abyssal Ferryman Skipper Madrick Hellbane, the special character, on the right-hand side. And then down below in the bottom left-hand corner, she has Pharrell, which is one of her Malkadon Spyrer hunters, as well as the one top right there in the bottom center. On the top of that water tower, that's going to be Correa, which is her EL'd Spyrer hunter as well. So she looks like she's kind of trying to go with a full envelopment on my attacks. My overall tactic is try to escape these Spyrer hunters as quickly as possible, cause some damage, grab the loot caskets, and then heli on and try to escape. And that's pretty much my battle plan on this one. Now for deployment over here in the left hand corner, we have Ferril Dinko Iron, which is the Malkadon Spire Hunter. And if you notice, I also include the characteristics on the left hand side, as well as weapons, equipment, special rules, and skills on the right hand side. So that way you, the viewer, can understand what these fighters can do and what they're capable of. And once again, if you do find this graphic overlay to be helpful, please let me know, because I'll continue doing so if it really helps you guys to enjoy the battle report. In the bottom center is Correa Emir Lulanti, which is her Yield Spire Hunter. That character has twin Yield Missile Gauntlets, so that's very terrifying. Deployed in the upper left-hand corner near the loot caskets is Rajimi Santai, which is the Chikara Spire Hunter for this gang, and she's located there, just a deadly close combat fighters. And deployed on top of the fuel tank yard overlooking the loot counters is Magic Hellbane, the Abyssal Ferryman Skipper special character from the Book of Desolation. My sister decided to take on the Abyssal Ferryman Alliance to help her use vehicles, because this is a vehicle-based campaign, and the rules are kind of fuzzy when it comes to whether Spire Hunters are not going to take Abyssal Ferryman teams or not. So in my campaign, we're going to say it's allowed. Moving on to my deployment area, as you can see, I use Corella Corsair's Infiltrate Special skill, so that way she can kind of deploys somewhat in the middle of the tabletop. I kind of put her next to that pillar so that way she can open the doors, and that way I can get some of my fighters coming to the central access points of the battlefield. At the same time, she can also overlook and get those loot caskets as well. Located on the far right hand side of the tabletop are my 4 members of my slaver entourage. I have Shingle the Corpulent, which is my Chain Lord. I also have Graham Ironhand, which is my Shackleman. I also have my 2 pit fighters, Vendelfeg, as well as Redblade. Vendelfeg is deployed up the front of the right next to that blue container, followed by Redblade right next to him on the right. Behind them is going to be Graham Ironhand, my Shackleman, and on the far bottom right hand corner, that's going to be Shingle the Corpulent, which is my Chain Lord. And the left-hand side of the battlefield are my last 4 members of my gang going to be fighting in this scenario. They're led by Goth Mog, which is my Beastman Hunt Leader. He's the big hulking beast in the back. He's got a heavy rock cutter as well as an arc welder, bulging biceps, kimmed out to the eyeballs. He's absolutely fantastic, and I love the way this character operates. Up in the front, I also have Reinhardt Rustlung, which is my heavy scale armor with the twin auto pistols. Right next to him is Lasher Hicks, who's got a pistol as well as a shock whip. And then right next to him, we have that hat with the grenade launcher. That is Ursus the Boar, which is one of my Outcast champions. He's a mastermind archetype. He's also got a grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades. And that's going to make up my deployment for this battle report. So with deployments over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1 and we roll for priority to see which of us will be going first. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Slaver Guild Outcasts will be going first. And as you can see, this is once again an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield, so that way you guys can understand where all the fighters are located at, and pretty much how the flow of battle is occurring as the battle report continues. So for my very first activation, I decided to activate Corella Corsair, my Outcast champion. She's right next to those loot counters. And at the same time, I want to see exactly what my fighters can do against Spire Hunters. So I do a simple action to move up forward so that way I get closer to those loot caskets. As you can see on this little mini map, she kind of moves up forward her maximum allowance of 5 inches, going right next to those loot counters, so that way she has a good line of sight against Rajimi Santai, which is the Chikara Spire Hunter that's overwatching those caskets. If you notice on this map, I have a little white yellow arrow there to kind of show how she's moving across the battlefield, so that way you can see how it's developing as the battle report continues. So with that simple activation, Corella Corsair is now right next to the feet of those loot caskets. She's got a direct line of sight directly towards Rajimi Santai. I'm going to use a basic action open fire with my hand flamer, just because I want to see how hand flamers and blaze conditioned weapons affect Spire Hunters. I'm kind of interested to see exactly how that work out. So with a stern expression on her face, Corella Corsair takes aim with a hand flamer and cuts loose with it, getting automatic hits with that beautiful template shot going directly into Rajimi Santai, which is the Chikara Spire Hunter. So to add a little bit more technicality to the game as well, if you'll notice, I've also included exactly what kind of things are occurring on the battlefield in terms of rules. I decided to talk about strengths as well as weapons traits, the kind of weapon that's being used, our rune rolls, that sort of thing. So that way players who don't know how to play Necromunda can see pretty much how the game flows. So this is Corella Corsair. Once again, she is targeting Rajimi Santai, which is the Chikara Spire Hunter, and she's hitting her with a Flan Flamer. Now lucky for me, I don't have to roll for a Ballistic skill because template weapons automatically hit. I'm striking at strength 3 as well. Now Rajimi Santai has a toughness characteristic of 4 up, so because of that, if I want to be able to wound her, I have to roll a 5 up in order to wound. Luckily for me, I rolled a 5 on that one, so I do manage to put a wound directly onto Rajimi Santai. Now, she does have an armor save of 4+ with her Spyrer hunting rig, so because that she rolls it, has no problem passing that armor roll whatsoever, so because that she does not suffer the wound. However, though, she does fail her blaze test, so because that she now becomes subject to it. And as you can see, the fighter is perfectly fine because with the Master of the Hunt special rules, she doesn't actually get pinned unless the attack wounds her, and she managed to save that wound with her armor save. But we did put the little blaze icon onto it, so that way when Shade activates this fighter next, she will have to take a blaze test for this fighter to see exactly what happens to her. And here's an overhead shot of the little mini maps, so that way you can see exactly how the action is progressing. And if you'll notice, the Rajimi Santai character, which is the 3 with the cyan circle with the 3 in it, I put an orange border around it to represent the fact that this character is currently on fire. So that'd be kind of like a nice little way for you to understand how the battle is proceeding. So up next, Shade decides to activate her next Spyrer Hunter, which of course is her Yelled Hunter, Correa Emir Yolanti. She's got as you can see, got some amazing characteristics for her character. And of course, for her very first activation, she decides she's going to fire her paired missile gauntlets, shooting directly at Garn Ironhand as well as the Shackleman for my Slaver entourage. She's got an excellent line of sight directly onto my entire Slaver entourage, and to make things worse, the Spyrer Hunter will be able to do 2 activations because she has those enhanced reflexes special rule attached to them. So this is going to be crazy. I'm really excited to see exactly what ends up happening. So Correa Emir Ulanti, she's targeting Graham Ironhand, which of course is my Shackleman because he's the closest target to her. And she's firing with paired yield missile gauntlets, which with her combined with her ballistic skill of 2+, she should be able to hit no problem. At the same time, because they are paired missile gauntlets, she also gets a rapid fire trait as well as a knockback trait. So in order to get this shot off, all she needs to do is roll a 2+ and roll a firepower dice as well. Interesting, of course, about that, when she managed to roll her dice, she rolls a 5, at the same time triggers knockback, so because that Graham Ironhand is pushed back an inch off of the edge and goes directly into the Sump Sea. But we're going to do the rest of the rolls first to see exactly what happens to him before we do the test to see if he drowns or not. Now, Correa, of course, is targeting Graham Ironhand, and with her paired missile gauntlet, she gets 1 hit and also triggers knockback as well. Now, she's striking at strength 5, at the same time, that means she also gets an additional point of damage because of that knockback characteristic. Now, Graham Ironhand's toughness is only toughness 3, so because of that, Correa Emir Ulanti only needs a 3+ in order to wound him. And of course, she has no problem actually inflicting that wound directly onto Graham Ironhand. I do have to take an armor save of a 6+, which is quite nice, but you know, it's a 6+, which I automatically fail, which means my character actually suffers 2 wounds, which eats up his wounds characteristic. So he, of course, goes directly face down into the muck. So we roll for the injury dice for Graham Ironhand. He actually rolls a serious injury on him, so because he is currently face down and slowly sinking into the sump, during the end phase, this character will need to do 2 things. The first thing he'll need to do is take a strength test to see if he actually can survive swimming around in the Sump Sea. If he fails that strength test, he automatically goes out of action. At the same time, he also has to take an injury roll too, so Graham Ironhand is not doing very well. Luckily for my rest of my Slaver entourage, they do manage to pass their cool test because Shingo the Corpulent passes his cool test, which of course allows the other fighters to stay in rank and not run away. So once again, here's a shot from the minimap as well. If you notice, player number 7, which is my Graham Ironhand, which is my fighter, he's actually illustrated in red, and that's to represent the fact that he is currently suffering a serious injury at this point. Because Shade does have the enhanced reflexes special rule attached to her Spyrer Hunter, she actually gets another set of activations, and since she did so well against firing her yelled missile launchers against my fighters, she says it calls for another round. So this time, Correa Emir Ulanti decides to target Vandal Fag, which is my pit fighter that's closest to her. She's once again using her paired yelled missile gauntlets. With a blitz skill of 2+, she's going to be able to get this shot no problem. Once again, she does have rapid fire as well as a knockback trait located attached to these weapons, so she decides to roll up on a 2+ to see if she hits. Unfortunately for me, she has no problem hitting me. She managed to hit me once though, so the firepower dice were quite lucky on that one. Of course, once again, those missile gauntlets are firing at strength 5. Vandal Fag has only got a toughness of 3. It requires a 3+ in order to wound. As crazy as it may sound, actually she fails to wound. She rolls a 1 on her wound roll, so because that Vindalfig is currently just pinned. Now I did fail my initiative test to see if I actually stay on the dock, so because of that, Vindalfig does fall directly into the muck. He will need to also take a strength test during his next activation to see if he actually succumbs and falls directly into the bottom of the Sump Sea. So going back to the mini-map, as you can see, the red 7 for Graham Ironhand is that he is seriously injured right now. At the same time, Vindalfig is also colored in orange with that circle, and that's to show the fact that that character is currently pinned, so I'll need to use one of the basic activations to escape. Hopefully this mini-map is really helping you guys out. I really hope it does, because this way it kind of helps players understand what's happening on the tabletop. So not to be outdone, I decided to activate Gothmog, my Beastman Hunt Leader, and because he is the leader of my gang, I do a group activation. I activate my 2 other fighters, Reinhardt Rustlung as well as Lasher Hicks, and the reason why is because I want to do a large group activation of my fighters, because sticking around where these Spyrer Hunters are located at is proven to be extremely dangerous for my gang. So what we managed to do, of course, is to do double movements real quick. Reinhardt Rustlung as well as Lasher Hicks move up 10 inches along the gangplanks of the docks heading directly towards the warehouse district, followed closely by my Gothmog. Gothmog is only movement 4 because he is a Beastman Hunt Leader, so I can only move up 8 inches, but it's slow going. But the idea here is to escape, because if you look in the upper left hand corner, I do have that Malkadon Spyrer Hunter I have to worry about as well, so that's going to be very dangerous for me. So once again, going back to the mini-map of the tabletop, as you can see, I have my fighters moving there in the bottom left-hand corner. I have that little yellow arrow to illustrate the fact that these guys are on the move. So Shade activates next, so she decides to activate Ferril Dinko Iron, which is her Malkadon Spyrer Hunter. And once again, because they have the enhanced reflex ability, they'll be able to activate twice during this phase. So for her very first set of activations, she decides to do a simple movement to move directly along the top of the tanks there, and does a basic action to clip in with her drop brick and then to fall directly to the ground level, as you can see in this movement right here in the photograph. And then for Ferril Dinko Iron's second activation, does a double action to declare a charge directly against Ursus the Boar, which is of course my champion's arm with a grenade launcher. She's within like 4 or 5 inches of him, so she's not going to have a problem whatsoever getting that charge off. So because that, she goes ripping right across the sump using her Malkadon Slashing Claws and engages my poor champion on the flank. And here's an overhead shot of the mini-map. On the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that blue arrow showing Ferril just moving across that battlefield extremely quickly. Malkadons are absolutely terrifying in this edition of the rules. They can be able to transfer across great distances, as well as climb up and down vertical distances. These guys are absolutely terrifying. So because Ferril Iron charged directly into Ursus the Boar, she's armed with paired Malkadon Slashing Claws, which gives her a whopping 8 attacks. She gets the paired weapons trait as well as the bonus for the charge as well as additional hand weapon, striking at weapon skill 3. So because all she needs is to roll 3 up on those 8 attack dice. Malkadons, man, they are absolutely blenders in this game. So Shaded rolls her attack dice, and 6 of those attacks do manage to hit Ursus the Boar, which is absolutely terrifying. Now luckily for me though, her attacks are only strength 3, which is kind of a saving grace on this one. So because that Ursus the Boar's toughness is also 3, so because of she needs a 4 up in order to wound, so it's a little bit more understandable that I might be able to survive this. Might be able to survive this being the key word here. Of those 6 attacks she launched, 4 of those wound, and not to mention those Slashing Claws have -2 AP as well. Now Ursus the Boar does have mesh armor as well as an armored undersuit, so because that does give him a 4-up armor save, but with that -2 AP, it means he's got an armor save of a 6 up. And unfortunately, when I rolled my armor save dice, I failed all 4 of those armor saves, so because of that, she puts 2 injury dice directly onto my fighter. Now for the injury dice, I actually rolled 2 serious injuries, so because of that, Ursus the Boar goes crashing face down directly into the muck. But because it was a charge activation, Frill decides to finish me out with the coup de grace, puts my champion out of action with a hand injury. So because of that, Ursus the Boar will lose 1 point to his weapon skill, dropping the weapon skill 5 up, I believe. 5 up, I believe, is what he's going to have. No, it's going to be 3+, I'm sorry. And at the same time, he's also going to have to go into recovery, so that part was absolutely brutal. So going back to the minimap, as you can see, Ursus the Boar's name is highlighted in red to represent the fact that he is now out of action. At the same time, his circle is blackened out like that to represent that he is no longer in play on the tabletop. So once again, I hope this minimap is helping you understand the flow of the battle on the tabletop. So my next activation, I decided to activate Shingle the Corpulent, which is my Chain Lord, who'll do a group activation with Red Blade as well as for Vandal Feg as well. The idea with these fighters is that I want to be able to activate so that way I can get out of the area because I'm just being chopped apart on these docks by the Spyrer hunters. So the first fighter I decided to activate first is Vandal Feg, my Slaver pit fighter. Unfortunately, I have to take a strength test because he is currently laying in the Sump Sea, and unfortunately, I failed my strength test. So because of that, Vandal Feg automatically goes out of action. He'll make a full recovery, however, because he is an entourage fighter, but still, that's one less fighter I have on the tabletop. And as you can see on the mini map, I have now 2 black spots on my side of the rosters with 2 of my fighters out of action, so things are not looking really good. At the same time, I also have another fighter who is also seriously injured as well with Graham Ironhand. Now as for the rest of my group activation, Red Blade as well as Shingle the Corpulent, they both do double movements to move as quickly as they can along the docks to try to get to the shoreline so that way they can start raiding those loot caskets that are located in the middle of the warehouse district. Red Blade actually takes point because she's got a 10-inch wound allowance when she does double movements because she is slightly faster than Shingle the Corpulent. Shingle the Corpulent is kind of a slow boy, he's moving at 4 inches, so I only move 8 inches maximum with his activation. So once again, here's a shot of the mini-map. As you can see, I have my fighters 9 and 6, which are Red Blade as well as Shingle the Corpulent, doing double movements. I got that little yellow area there to show you what's going on. Now, unfortunately, I am leaving Graham Ironhand behind, which is my Shackleman, but he's seriously injured, and the fact of the odds of him surviving are not very good. So that's the reason why I'm just kind of cutting my losses, trying to move as quickly as possible. So for Shay's next activation, she activates Magic Hellbane, the Abyssal Ferryman Skipper Dramatis Personae that's in her gang. And she takes 2 basic actions. She takes a basic action in order to aim. And the reason why is because she's aiming with her Architect pistol against Corella Corsair. That little terminal that she's standing next to provides partial cover, so there's a -1 hit penalty. So she eliminates that -1 hit penalty by taking a basic action to aim. And of course she takes another basic action to open fire with the Architect pistol. And with a 2+ ballistic skill, this should not be a problem whatsoever. However, before my sister gets a chance to roll the dice, she says the magic word. I'm going to rain some doomed upon the doomed heads of my doomed enemies, triggering the voiceless choir. So Shade has to roll on the insanity table to see exactly what ends up happening to Magic Hellbane, and unfortunately for her, she rolled a broken nerve test. So because that Magic Hellbane loses broken nerves, and because he flees back 11 inches straight away from Corella Corsair, making his way directly to the edge of the tabletop. And during the end phase, he'll need to take a cool test to see if he manages to get his nerve back, but with a cool rating of a 6+, that's probably going to happen. So here's an overhead shot of the mini-map. As well as you can see, Magic Hellbane has fled to the right 11 inches in the upper right hand corner. If you also notice too, his circle is also grayed out as well, and that's to simplify the fact that this character has lost his nerve test, so because of that, he will need to pass a cool test during the end phase before he can activate again the next turn. Now here's another overhead shot of the battlefield, and the reason why that's the case because I forgot to take a photo of my Shackleman Graham Ironhand. I actually try to pass his strength test so that we can crawl directly back on the dock, so that we don't have to worry about taking another strength test during the end phase. Unfortunately though, I failed my strength test because that Graham Ironhand gets sunk beneath the bottom of the Sump Sea, and he goes out of action as well. So that's why his name is redded out, and of course his circle is also blacked out as well, to represent the fact he's no longer participating in the game. And I do apologize for not taking a photo of that, I just forgot to do it. So for Shade's very last activation, she decides to activate Rajimi Santai, which is her Jakara Spyrer Hunter. Now Jakara Spyrer Hunter actually has the Blaze condition put directly on top of her, so because of that, she will need to test for Blaze first before she can do any activations. So for the Blaze test, unfortunately, Rajimi Santai failed that Blaze test. She takes a Strength 3 hit with -1 AP as well as 1 damage. Luckily for her, though, she was able to save that wound, so no harm, no foul there. But she does randomly flee back 2d6 inches in a random direction. When my sister rolled the scatter die, she fled back, I think something like 7 or 8 inches, head directly back, so she's going straight back to the top side of the battlefield. So as you can see on the little mini-map here, she goes straight back directly towards the back edge of the table. At the same time, she also is on the Blaze condition. You can see the little orange arrow showing what direction she's traveling at as she's fleeing back. And because of enhanced reflexes, she decides to try to activate again. She fails her Blaze test one more time, so because of that, she does take a Strength 3 hit with -1 AP as well as 1 damage. Luckily, she does survive that wound, so nothing happens there, but she also has randomly flee back another 2d6 inches in a random direction. Now in this situation, she does get wounded by the flames. Unfortunately, we forgot to put a little red die next to her to represent the fact that she did suffer a wound. So she does get pinned in this because she did suffer the wound. However, though, she is lucky. My sister rolled a 6, so because of that, her Jakara Spyrer Hunter is no longer on fire anymore. So going back to the minimap, that's the final activation where your Jimmy Santai, the Jakara Spyrer Hunter, end up going almost to the edge of the tabletop on the very top edge of the battlefield. So Corella Corsair is really safe from being countercharged at this point, which is kind of lucky for me. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase, and Magic Hellbender, of course, takes a cool test to see if he regains his nerve. With a cool characteristic 6+, he has no problem doing that, so because of that, he just turns 180 degrees, and he's ready to be activated again for the very next turn. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the tabletop during the end phase at the end of turn number 1. As you can see, both Shade as well as myself rolled and passed both of our bottle tests, so we're perfectly fine. And things are kind of scattered at the current moment. As you can see, my sister's fighters, for Jakara fighters, way out of position on the far north side of the tabletop, while there are 2 other fighters as well, Pharrell, who actually is on the left-hand side, as well as Correa is on the right-hand side. They're kind of in good positions to prevent my fighters from actually retreating once I'm able to get the loot counters. Corella Corsair is still by herself in the center of the tabletop as well, where all the loot counters are located at. On the far right hand side, we have Magic Hellbane, who did manage to recover his nerve test, so because of that, he'll be able to participate in turn number 2. So at the end of turn number 1, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both Shade and I roll for initiative to see which of us will go first. So both Shane and I roll our d6 to see which of us will be going first. I imagine get the initiative on this one. So once again, the Slavery Guild Outcasts will be going first in turn number 2. And so because I decided to do my very first activation by activating my leader, Gothmog. Now with Gothmog, I decided to do a group activation with both Lasher Hicks as well as Reinhardt Rustlung. I'm planning on sending my 2 Outcast Hives to come northwards, so that way they keep on going to try to support Corella Corsair by herself. Meanwhile, Gothmog, he's going to declare a charge directly against Feril Dinko Iron, which is the Malkadon Spyrer Hunter that managed to take out my champion, because if anybody could take on a Spyrer Hunter, it's definitely my Beastman leader, Gothmog. So as you can see on the little mini-map over here, both Reinhardt Rustling as well as Lasher Hicks do double movements directly to the north, heading directly toward that first series of walls. My plan is to skirt around that wall and try to link up with Corella Corsair in the middle of the tabletop. Meanwhile, Gothmog has no problem closing the distance with Pharrell Dinko Iron, which is the Malkadon Spyrer Hunter, because he's going to get some payback for what he did to Ursus the Boar. So here's a close-up of my 2 Hive Scum, Reinhardt Rustlung as well as Lasher Hicks. They both did double movements to go directly towards this wall. The plan here is to kind of skirt along the wall and then do a button hook to the right, so that way they can link up with Corella Corsair as well as lay down some suppressive fire with their pistols. Spyrer Hunters are extremely dangerous, but the idea here is if I can get her on 3-to-1 odds, I might have a better chance of actually surviving. Meanwhile, my Beastman Hunt leader Gothmog, though, he declares a charge directly against Feril Dinko Iron, and I have no problem whatsoever closing that distance. Now, Gothmog, I'm not going to lie, he's a bit of a beast. He's got 3 attacks base, strength 4, toughness 4. He's also got a Friends On immunity as well. I also have a Friends On collar on him, so that way he has Nerves of Steel, Berserker, Unstoppable, as well as True Grit. He's also got Bulging Biceps, so that way he can dual-wield unwieldy weapons. I gave him Light Carapace Armor as well as an Armor Undersuit for a 3-up armor save, and an Arc Welder, and he's also got a Heavy Rock Cutter. Not to mention, I also got a Stim Slug stash just for lulz in case I wanted to have this guy do some real serious damage. Gothmog is about to bring the pain. I'm really looking forward to see what he does. So Gothmog targets Feril Dinko Iron, the Malkadon Hunter, and because I get 6 attacks when it's all said and done, including my dual-wielding weapons as well as my charge, I'm striking at weapon skill 3 as well. I decided to divide my attacks, 3 attacks with my Arc Welder, so that way I get Blaze as well, and then 3 attacks with my Heavy Rock Cutter, and I needed 3 up in order to hit because of that 3+ weapon skill. So I roll my 6 attack dice. Of the 6 dice that I rolled, 4 do manage to land hits against Feril Dinko Iron. I decided to actually put 2 of those hits, oddly enough, were on my Arc Welder, and another 2 hits were on my Heavy Rock Cutter as well. Now my Heavy Arc Welder is actually striking at Strength 6, while my Heavy Rock Cutter is striking at Strength 7. Now Feril Dinko Iron's toughness is only toughness 3, so because I only need 2s in order to wound this guy. And so because I take my 4 dice and I roll them. My wound rolls, however, were not that impressive. I only managed to get one wound with my arc welder as well as another wound with my heavy rock cutter. Now my arc welder of course strikes at -3 AP and also causes 3 damage with the possibility of putting blaze on there. Meanwhile my heavy rock cutter has one wound with -4 AP as well as putting 3 damage on it as well. Now for real Dinko Iron's Malcolm hunting rig, I only believe is only save 5, so because he gets no armor save whatsoever, I put a grand total of 6 damage on that, so I eat up 2 of his wounds. So because I roll my injury dice on that to see exactly what ends up happening to him. I get a variety of flesh wounds, serious injuries, as well as one out of action result when I roll my injury dice, and because of that, when we roll the 2d6 to see what happens to Pharrell Dinko Iron, he goes out of action with damaged musculature, so because of that he will go into recovery. At the same time, it also loses 1 point to his strength, so now the Malcolm Hunter is at strength 2, which is not good. So once again we go back to the little mini map. As you can see, the little blackout spot for Pharrell is now on the right hand column of the fighters, as well as Rajimi Damtai being pinned as well at the top of the tabletop. Goth Mog managed to put that Spyrer Hunter into his place and earns himself some experience points as well. But before I can celebrate though, I say the magic words. Let me take a picture real quick. That is the trigger word that my sister chose for me for this battle report to activate the voiceless choir. Up to this point, all I really said was like, wait a second, I took a picture, or let me zoom in, I took a picture. Never said the key phrase, let me take a picture real quick. I said it so because I triggered the voiceless choir. So I roll on the insanity table to see exactly what ends up happening to Gothmog, and oddly enough I rolled a 6, so it was really awesome. So because it still remains under my control, so Gothmog avoids the voiceless choir. Basically after I got done destroying that Spyrer Hunter, I thought that the voices were probably just the dying death screams of that Malcadon as his soul burns in hell. So, switching back for Shade's very first activation, she decides to activate Jimmy Santai, the Jakara Spyrer Hunter. She does manage to put out the blaze test in the previous round, so because of that, she does have to take a basic action to get back on her feet again in order to escape pinning, because she did take a wound. And once again, we forgot to put the little red die next to that, so I do apologize for that. So Rajimi Santai, of course, goes right back to her feet again, and she decides to do a simple action in order to move up forward for her first simple action, so that way she can close the distance again. So here's a shot of the mini-map just to kind of show you the little short distance she took with her 5-inch moon allowance, heading directly towards the fuel tank, heading down south again so that way she can get back into the fight. And because Spyrer Hunters have the enhanced reflexes special ability, she gets another set of activations. So this time around, Jeremy Dantai decides to do double movements directly to the south, cutting her way through the fuel tank, trying to take some cover behind that pillar, so that way Corella Corsair can't set her on fire again with that hand flamer. And once again, here's a close-up of that little mini-map, kind of showing that blue arrow for fighter number 3, then teal, heading down south directly to that fuel tank. That way you guys can see exactly how the battle is progressing overall. For my next activation, I decided to activate Corella Corsair, and I do 2 basic actions. The very first thing I decided to do is actually secure one of the loot caskets. That takes a basic action in order to do that, and that's represented by that little yellow die right next to her fighter, so she is carrying a loot casket. And I do another basic action to use that terminal to open up that door, so that way my fighters can flood in and start taking some of the loot counters inside this warehouse. And to illustrate that on the little mini-map, I put a green filler for Corella Corsair. That's to represent the fact that she has a loot casket on her. And at the same time, you'll notice that white grayish bar right there in the center of the tabletop. That's to represent the fact that that door is no longer there anymore because it's now opened up. And that's pretty much how I did my activation for that character. So Shade activates next by activating Magic Hellbane. Magic Hellbane takes a simple action to move up forward, full 5 inches of moon allowance, and he does try to take open fire with his Archaeotech pistol. Unfortunately for my sister Shade, though, she missed her shot. That's why I'm not going to show all the data, everything involved, just because it was a missed shot, so there's no point in actually illustrating that. And here's an overhead shot of the miniature of the board, of course, once again showing Magic Hellbane, the fighter number 5 in the teal circle, moving directly to the left-hand side so that way she could take a shot directly at my champion. So for my next activation, I decided to activate once again a group activation with Shungo the Corpulent as well as Red Blade, which are the last 2 members of my Slaver entourage. So both those fighters are going to be activated, and I decided to do double movements with those fighters. Both those fighters move double their moon allowance, with Red Blade taking point, moving up 10 inches directly to that now open doorway that Corella Corsair made for us. And at the same time, also Shingo the Corpulent kind of falling close behind with 8 inches as well. And that pretty much makes up their activations. And once again, here's a shot of the tabletop. As you can see, fighters 9 and 6, which are Shingle as well as Redblade, doing their double movements using that yellow arrow as the indicator to show that they're making their closing the distance with Corella Corsair, so that way they can start stealing loot caskets. So Shade then activates Corella Emir Ulanti, the Yelled Spire Hunter, and I'm just going to give you guys a spoiler alert. Corella cleans up in this round. She does amazing work. So the very first thing she decides to do is actually take a simple movement action in order to fly 7 inches directly to the top of the bridge that's below her. So with a buzzing hiss of dreaded blades flying through the air, Corella Emir Ulanti lands directly on top of the bridge, having a perfect line of sight directed at Gothmog, my Beastman Hunt leader. And she decides to do for her basic action is to open fire with her paired missile gauntlets. So here's a shot of the little mini map real quick, so that way you can see exactly how the movement looks like from the top of that water tower directly to the top of that bridge. That's going to actually give her good access points to pretty much hit everybody in the bottom left hand corner of the tabletop. So once again, Corella decides to aim with both of her paired missile gauntlets directly into Gothmog. Now, she does have Blitz's skill 2 up, but that little crate of food that's right next to Gothmog will actually count for partial cover. Just the partialist of partial cover gives her -1 hit against me as well. Now, she does have rapid fire as well as knockback on her paired yelled missile gauntlets, so because that she will get firepower dice, and she can trigger knockback against Gothmog, so she's going to get a 3+ in order to hit me with those paired missile gauntlets. I got extremely lucky with those paired missile gauntlets. She only managed to hit me once, so I was extremely lucky on that one. Now, she is striking at strength 5, and I do have a toughness of 4, so because of that, Corella will need a 3+ order to wound me, so because of that, she rolls her single d6 die. Needless to say, she wounds me quite easily. I believe Corella rolled a 5 in order to wound me as well, so Gothmog does have an armor save of 4 up, so that part's quite nice. I do lose 1 point of armor penetration because of that yelled missile launcher, and when I roll for my armor save, I fail it, so because of that, Gothmog takes a wound, which is absolutely horrific. To make matters worse, not only do I take a hit, I also got to pass an initiative test of 3+ to stay on the platform, which I failed. So because that Gothmog goes splashing directly into the Sump Sea. So he'll need to take a strength test during his end phase to see if he actually sinks to the bottom of the sump or not. So at the same time though, I do try to pass my pinning test because I do have nerves of steel. I have a cool of 6+, I roll my 2d6, and I failed that too, so I am also pinned as well. So not only is Gothmog wounded, he's also in the Sump Sea, and he's also pinned as well. It looks like the Dice God were just kind of upset with me for my last performance against the Macaldon Spire Hunter. I guess they're just kind of like, you just can't be that good. So Gothmog is in a seriously bad way. So here's a close-up of the overhead shot of the entirety of the tabletop. As you can see, Gothmog is currently pinned. That's why he's kind of colored orange as well. And he's also kind of laying in the Sump Sea, which is bad, which means in the end phase I have to take a strength test for him to see if he drowns or not, which should be pretty doable because he has strength 4, but you never know. Everyone can roll a 1, so that is something I do have to worry about. But wait, there is more, because Corella Emir Ulanti is a Spire Hunter. She has the enhanced reflex ability, which means she also gets a second set of activations. So for her first activation, she takes a basic action to open fire with her paired missile gauntlets directly into Shingle the Corpulent, my Chain Lord. So because of that, she targets Shingle the Corpulent. She has paired yield missile gauntlets. She has rapid fire as well as knockback on those with Bliss's skill 2. She does need a Bliss's skill hit of 2 to hit. I don't know why I put a 3 there. I do apologize for that. But all she needs to do is roll a 2 because there's nothing stopping her from hitting my Chain Lord. So Corella rolls a d6 as well as the rapid fire dice. Managed to get 2 hits with those paired yelled missile gauntlets, and they're striking at strength 5 against Shingle the Corpulent's toughness of 4. So because of that, she will need to get a 3+ on those wound rolls in order to cause harm onto Shingle the Corpulent. Which of course she gets no problem whatsoever. Those 2 wounds have to go right through to Shingle the Corpulent. I do have to roll a 5 up with my armor save because I do have light carapace armor, but I lose 1 because of 1 AP from those missile gauntlets. And I roll my 2d6 and I fail both my armor tests. So because that both those wounds cut right through Shingle the Corpulent, goes right straight into his back. Now, luckily, 2 things end up happening. First of all, I take my injury dice, I roll it, I end up getting a serious injury. So because that Shingle the Corpulent is now laying face down, he's currently bleeding, he is in a really bad spot. So I was quite lucky that way. I could have lost this guy to an out-of-action result, or worse yet, he could have failed his initiative test and fallen in the Sump Sea, but he doesn't. So he's currently laying on the ground and he's currently bleeding. What is not so great is that for the second action within this activation, Kreia Ymir Ulanti decides to do a simple action to swoop down and land just short of where my character is laying at. She wants to maintain a little bit of distance so that way Red Blade can't countercharge against her in close combat, so she can still shoot her yield missile gauntlets, but close enough that where if she charges forward, she can put the coup de grace directly onto Shingle the Corpulent and put him out of action. And once again, that takes us directly to the overhead shot of the minimap, so you can see that Kreia is kind of swooping down from the bridge, landing right there on that gangplank. Shingle the Corpulent is highlighted in red because he is seriously injured. I got 3 out-of-action fighters, 1 pinned fighter, and 1 fighter that's seriously injured. Things are not going my way. So at the action phase, you go directly to the end phase, and the first thing I have to do, of course, is take a bottle test. And unfortunately, I failed that bottle test. So not only do I lose a point of reputation for bottling out, but now all my fighters will only take cool tests in order to stay on the tabletop. And I'm playing Outcasts. We're not really known for our psychology stats really well, so because I doubt my fighters are going to be staying on board. Now, because it is the end phase, I do have to take a strength test for my leader, Gothmog, to see if he actually drowns in the Sump Sea or not. Lucky for me, though, he does not drown, so he is perfectly fine. However, who is not fine is Shingle the Corpulent. He still rolled a serious injury, so he's still on the ground, still bleeding out, and worse yet, he has a yelled Spyrer Hunter slowly creeping towards him, waiting to put the final blow against him. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, I have a rainbow of colors of just bad on my side of the map. Well, my sister only has one guy missing. At the same time, it's at the end of round turn number 2, so because of that, more fighters from the Sump Spiders will be showing up here soon, including the Hunt Leader as well as Legrun, which of course is the rig hand for the Abyssal Ferryman Alliance. So things are not looking too good for my gang. So with the odds stacked against me, I decided to voluntarily bottle out and actually flee the battlefield just because there's no way I'm not going to be able to recover from this. Not to mention, I still got to take cool tests for a lot of my fighters, and Outcasts have cools of 8+, so no one's going to be sticking around except for my leader. I really don't want a serious injury to happen to my leader, so that way he goes in recovery. So because I decided to leave the battlefield and net a victory for my sister Shade, as well as the Sump Spiders, the Spyrer hunting party. So that's good for this video, you guys. We're going to go directly to the post game because this battle port is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so now it's time for the post game. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report for It Came From the Sump Season 2 battle report number 5, and unfortunately I lost this battle, so we're going to be starting off with the Rusty Nails of the Slaver Guild Outcasts. So let's go ahead and talk about my gang real quick. For my injuries, Ursus the Boar, my champion, suffered a hand injury, so because he's now weapon skill 4+, because he loses 1 point of his weapon skill and he goes to recovery, so he will not be able to participate in my next battle. Luckily for me though, Grevius 2.0, which is one of my Scum Racers, he will be able to participate in my next battle report, which is kind of nice. Now Vindalfig as well as Graham Ironhand also got out of action results as well, but they made full recoveries because they're members of my Slaver entourage. Now, that part was kind of sad, but because of all the experience points I gained, I was able to actually advance a couple members of my gang. Gothmog actually decided to spend his experience points level up to level 1 and getting +1 to his mood allowance. So now he's mood allowance 5, which means he can come at you faster now, and also increase his credit value by 10 credits. Corella Corsair, which is my champion, who was the infiltrating champion with the Hand Flamer, I decided to level her up twice, getting +1 to her cool as well as +1 to her willpower. So now she's cool 6 as well as willpower 7, makes her a little bit more reliable in terms of mental stats. Also increased her credit value by 15 credits. Ursus the Boar also leveled up to level 1 with his willpower characteristics, and now he's the willpower 7, so that way he can stick around a little bit more and actually cause some chaos on the tabletop, and it also increases credit value by 5 credits as well. Now for my territories, for my settlement, I earned 1 point of reputation for my settlement as well as 50 credits, and for my fighting pit, and this is where I made a bonehead mistake, I realized right after I did this battle report, I could have recruited 2 more Hive Scum to be on the tabletop to fight alongside my gang. That would have been, extremely important in this battle report because I only had such few fighters to use, and I didn't make that move. And I feel really dumb now because I realized I could have more fighters on the tabletop causing a lot more chaos. Because one of the things that really hurt me is I didn't really have any shooting elements so much on this gang because it's all short range shooting, and oh well. Luckily for me though, I still maintain my fighting pit because Spyrer Hunters can't take territory, so I was quite lucky that way. Now for my alliance, I'm still allied with the Slavers Guild, so no harm, no foul there. And with my 50 credits, I decided to recruit a new rogue dog named Dr. Drybrush. So I now have a rogue dog within my gang to patch up my wound in case anything horrible happens. Now for my reputation, I got 1 point reputation for my territory, as well as 1 point reputation for fighting against the Sump Spiders for the very first time. However, I did lose a point of reputation for bottling out. That brings my reputation to a grand total of 5. My new record now is at 1 win and 2 losses, and my new gang rank now is at 1,920 points. So let's go to my little sister Shade with the Sump Spiders. Now she did lose 1 of her fighters. For real, Dinko Iron, which is her Malkodon hunter, suffered damaged musculature. So because I loses 1 point to his strength and goes in recovery. So now he's only strength 2 now, which is not good for a fighter like that to have. So hopefully my sister will be able to get rid of that when he is able to clear out all of his injuries once he gets enough kill markers put directly onto his armor. Now for advancements, Correa Amir Ulanti did actually learn quite a bit of experience points, added +1 to her movement allowance. So because that now it also increased her credit value by 10. So now that flying yield hunter can travel 8 inches now instead of 7. Absolutely terrifying. And Jimmy Santai also leveled up as well. Decided to spend her 6 experience points in order to roll a random combat skill. And she actually learned the Rain of Blow skills. So she got really lucky on that one because she's got the Naga Blade, which is a first level trait attack, and also increased her credits by 20 credits. Now the reason why she's able to do this and get those experience points to get these upgrades is because since she won the battle report, she gets the Terror Purge game mechanic for her gang, which means that at the end of the turn, if they win the game, they actually get to do what's basically like the Purge. They go out into the streets and cause all kinds of chaos, and each of their fighters earn 2 experience points. So that part is quite good. Now her alliance is still maintained with the Abyssal Ferryman team. She doesn't buy anything from the trading posts. She doesn't earn any reputation either because those game mechanics do not apply to this gang, but she did increase her terror level to level 2. Her new record now is at 1 win and 0 losses, and her new gang rank now is at 1,680 points. So there you guys have it. That is our very first battle report with Spyrer Hunters, which is really cool. I love seeing how the game mechanic operated. I find it to be very fascinating to fight against and also quite challenging, which is also a good thing. And if you guys end up participating in our Necromunda Community Event, please let us know. Send us emails, send us pictures, send us videos. If you make battle reports on your own channel, send us clip art of the things that you're working on. We'd love to get you guys input and get this community event even more activated with more players being involved. So that's good for this battle report. I am Commander Cheapskate. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.